Da 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 da. Well, since you stumbled upon my little video here, you probably already know what The Walking Dead is. But just in case you don't, the show is a post apocalyptic grab bag of cheap carnival prizes that you thought you wanted, but after 11 years of getting the same stuffed unicorn, like me, you maybe came to the conclusion that it's just bad. But you don't have to listen to me. If you liked The Walking Dead from season 1 to 11, well, congratulations, because you will probably like just about anything that they put out there. It did start off with all the right bells and whistles, but slowly and surely, after one garbage civilization filled with people who forgot how to speak English after 4 years of living in an apocalypse at a time, it got sloppy. It got stupid, and it got weird. Now, of course, we can blame a multitude of things on why it suddenly got bad, but it really started going downhill when a certain red-headed rat man named Scott Milhouse Gimple got involved. Husband to Julia Wackenheim Gimple. So as the story goes, the Gimplenator here, he took over as showrunner for the show in 2013. And he successfully ran it into the ground, and then he became the chief content officer of the Walking Dead universe. But let's stop talking about the Gimple in the room, and let's talk about Dead City. It's bad, isn't it? As a full disclaimer, I have seen all the episodes of season 1, and this will contain a few spoilers, if you even care. Dead City is the spin-off series of the show, following Negan and Maggie blundering about the ruins of Manhattan, attempting to find Maggie's son, Herschel. And I know exactly what you're going to ask. Pasidon, do I need to watch the entirety of The Walking Dead to understand what's happening in this show? But it's difficult for me to say if it's necessary to watch it all to keep up with Dead City's plot. Because at times they really do act like you're supposed to know who these people are. Like, they constantly flash back to the part where Negan is just skull-jacking Glenn in the woods. Like, if you didn't watch The Walking Dead, it's like, what the hell am I looking at right now? And then at other times, they bring up these arbitrary, random plot lines that you're not gonna know anything about anyway. Like, there's some settlement called the Bricks. It's like, what's the Bricks? Where's the Bricks? Why is it called the Bricks? Is it a family-style Mexican restaurant? I don't know. Like, what's the Bricks? Explain what the Bricks are. Of all the great ways a show like this can open up with, we open up on Maggie, like, looking through a pair of binoculars at nothing interesting. The pacing is just immediately off. Because 1 second she's just looking through her binocular or monocular, whatever the hell that thing is, and then she's surrounded by the dead, and then the next scene she's on the road, pulling her truck into a seedy tavern in the middle of like a suburban Super 8 motel alcove. And it's a bar that's not supposed to be serving alcohol. Because some sort of like bastard man county marshal walks into the same bar later, and for some reason he's dressed like he's from the set of Wild Wild West, and then everyone just hides their drinks. I guess there's prohibition at the end of days on top of everything else. But finally, after not much looking at all, actually, Maggie finds Negan and she ropes him into helping her find her son. It really doesn't take much convincing.
Yes, you owe me. I owe you, right?
The biggest thing I don't get about the show is that it seems like Maggie and Negan are just completely incapable of talking about the past.
There's Annie, your kid.
Jenny, this here is Maggie.
And they just have nothing to talk about in regards to the past. They're still living in the past. Maggie sure as hell has not gotten over anything. But they don't talk about old characters. They never reminisce about anything. Like, remember that time we burnt down that crazy rich lady's house because she was mean to people? It's like we don't talk about anything that happened. And wouldn't it be nice if they had a bit of a rapport with each other and actually square off and have like a proper, normal conversation?
They're gonna take care of it, right? They're gonna... Good people.
Oh, what's that? We're not gonna do anything like that? We're just gonna have all of their dialogue exactly the same? Oh, okay.
Negan, you're a monster. You'll never change. But you're my only hope.
Well, damn, Maggie. That's it. That's the show. Which is really weird. Because previously on The Walking Dead, Negan has a wife. A pregnant wife. He's a busy guy, but all of a sudden, they're just gone? Well, how come you're not with your wife and kid then? Oh, that's right. We don't talk about anything from the past.
It's Annie, your kid.
The past is bad. Talking about the past makes you hurt inside, and we don't want that. So instead of making Negan's story a direct continuation from the previous series, they just decide that that's not interesting, or we don't want to do that. We've already done that-ish. So they create this entirely new character called Ginny. It's Ginny with a G. And she follows Negan around, and she doesn't talk or really do much of anything, say anything, and I'm sure she has a really tragic, just heartbreaking, just tragic backstory. Oh yeah, and she's boring. She is not interesting at all. I'm sure they're gonna give her like some sort of important role eventually, but from what I've seen so far, she is just as interesting as a sack of butter. I don't know why they drag her around. I don't care about her. They didn't make me care about her, and they're probably not gonna make you care about her either. So. And at this point, if you're a hopeless romantic and you're praying that the show is just going to magically get its crap together and start making sense at some point, fat luck there, Buster. I mean, you have the previously mentioned county marshal of New Babylon and his hickish henchmen scouring the countryside for Negan. And in order for Maggie and Negan to slip by the marshals, they kidnap one and they drive him to Manhattan Island in a boat. I mean, why did they feel like they had to kidnap someone to go to Manhattan? Is this like a Aztec ritual or something? It was unnecessary, and it didn't make any sense, but that's what they did. And to give the show some credit, there's some nice visuals in it. occasionally. Like, you have this great shot of a dilapidated Manhattan Bridge in the background at one point. You've got nice aerial shots over the streets on occasion. Good-looking general dreadfulness. But, of course, it's never consistent, and there's some really shoddy CGI on occasion. Now, I kind of do miss the old sepia tone, gritty film grain that the show used to have. And while this new digital format that they have going on might look cleaner and smoother, you can really tell when there's bad CGI. Bad CGI really stands out a lot. And let's not forget to talk about the interior set designs, which by designs I do mean they just rented out like a bank or like a sporting arena for a day. They even had this big scene in like a parking garage. It's nothing really interesting or exciting. So this is the part where I talk about the characters. But there is not much to talk about there. You obviously have Maggie and Negan, and if we're being honest with ourselves, if most people make it past episode 1, they're probably only going to be invested in Maggie and Negan. There are other characters that they meet along the way, like some weird like spirit of Halloween spooky ghoul witch lady from Slovakia, or a big black guy named Luther. Ooh, well, that sounds familiar. But I don't really have much to say about these characters because they will not last long enough for you to even get attached to, or even learn their names. And then you have the main bad guy, the Croat. He's okay. Most of the time, he's just your typical Dr. Jekyll Nazi scientist evil guy who talks about evil things and does evil stuff. Really no black and white there. It's all black. So, not really fascinated by this guy. He's just okay. And the last thing I want to talk about is the dialogue. I don't know what the Gimpleheimer has been doing, but he is the chief content officer, so I don't know how this content got past his desk. It's really just dull. No one really has anything interesting ever to say. It's sometimes just overly sentimental. But a lot of the time in the show, we are setting up these convoluted plot mechanics. Like, there are so many plot mechanics in the show, it's almost mythological. It's so disconnected from reality. Like, every single little pebble you come across will have a significant impact on the show somehow in the future. And all of these characters you meet along the way, regardless of them not being all that fascinating, it really does seem like the only reason that they exist is to set something up for Maggie and Negan. Like, there's a scene where Negan and Luther are talking about beeswax, and like the camera like pans in on the beeswax to make sure you know that beeswax is going to be important later. We can't just have like a nice, casual, normal, realistic conversation between two people without it being a plot mechanic. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum, you just have some lines of dialogue that are just bosonic.
Holy shit, are you kidding me? Seriously? You have a neck beard and a rat tail?
And I used to daydream that one day I'd go to New York, walk into that Macy's, become best friends with the real Santa.
I want you to tell me all about the methane.
I think the dumbest scene in the entire show for me was at that stupid bank, and these motorcycle helmet guys raid the bank, and they're killing off all these survivors, and Negan gets pissed off, apparently, and he takes one of them hostage, and then he holds them over a balcony while the others are watching, just staring for some reason. Like, I guess they're done killing people. And then Negan just slits this guy open, and he pours blood on these people down below, and they just kind of stand there and go, no, not the blood. Why don't they move? It's like they're getting Nickelodeon slimed or something. So, yeah, that's the show. This should be enough to tell you that it's just another Robert Kirkman themed ad-lib with no end in sight. It'll keep getting renewed, and these characters will keep getting ring-tossed into cheap, crappy mobile games until the end of time. And I think it's fair to say that we got Gimpled hard with this one. Oh, yes. Scott Gimple has certainly done it again. If it's having your luggage stolen by a magical Slovakian witch lady, or throwing a man off a balcony just to shoot a tiny harpoon into his leg, then attempt to reel him in like a fish, Dead City certainly answers my question without hesitation. It's bad, isn't it? My name has been Pasidon, and it's bad. Boogity bow bow diggity da doo. Boogity bow bow diggity da doo.